You have probably built a user registration system before, but in a real backend system, signing up is not enough. The user shouldn't be active unless they verify their email address. So in this video, we're gonna be building a complete email verification flow in Spring Boot. We're gonna be generate a token, send a verification link, validate it, handle the expiration, and activate the user. We're gonna be using the Spring Boot Starter mail package. And in addition to that, we're also going to be working with SMTP protocol. For you guys who don't know what is SMTP, which is Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. It's a protocol responsible for sending emails to users. You're going to need it when you're sending emails. So in order to use it, we're going to have some configurations here. By the way, I'm going to be using MailPit, which is a great image for faking the sending of email addresses. So you wouldn't really need a real server. You can just mock this kind of behavior locally here. And this is also Docker Compose that's up and available in the repo for you guys to play around. So we have some configuration. These configurations are regarding to the Spring Boot Starter package. We need the host, we need port, username and password, and some properties such as it's going to be authentication, or is there some kind of authentication needed here or not. And if you want to have some kind of encryption such as TLS. And by the way, SMTP is different than SMTPS. The difference here, the encryption itself. So it's similar to HTTP and HTTPS. The S is just for secured. What does secure mean? It means you're not sending everything as plain. You're encrypting the data through this kind of algorithm. This encryption hides the plain text through some kind of way, such as public key and private key. There are some kind of algorithms that are being used in order to encrypt the data to make sure that whatever data you're sending or receiving is completely secured. Okay, this is basically the configuration for the mail that we're going to be needing. I have also added some kind of configurable URLs for our email verifications, such as the expiration for the email verification and for the password resetting. And by the way, yeah, we're not only covering the email verification step, we're covering also if in case you forgot your password and you want somehow to reset your password, we're going to include it here because this also happened through some kind of email. So we have expiration in minutes, expiration in minutes here. We have like 1440 and we have also 30 for just resetting a password. Also the URLs that we're going to be needing for the email verification and resetting password. Okay, so the first step here, what happens when the user gets registered? After registering it, we need to send the user the email for the activation. And by the way, this is an extension for another previous video that I had created for making a login and registration system. So if you want to watch it so you can keep up with what I'm doing, feel free to stop here, get there, and then come back to continue. So in the registration step, what happens here? We are creating our user and we're setting the verification step to be false. Your email is not verified yet. And we're going to be issuing a verification token. This verification token is, by the way, hashed. And when I'm talking about hash here, you need to have consistent hashing. Because if you're having a bad hashing algorithm or you're hashing in the wrong way, this means you're not having a consistent hashing, which might be result in the different values for the same token or token, which isn't really in your favor. This is not something you're expecting. So you want to get the token and you're going to be using this token in order to validate that email through that token. Also, this token is going to be expiring after a specific period, which we have mentioned in our configuration file, which is application.yaml. So after we issue this email verification here, we have now the hashed verification token. We're going to be saving normally the user. And now we need to send the user email in order to make sure that the email address gets verified. So here in the send verification email, we're going to be sending the user a verification email containing the link that he needs in order to verify his account. So here in the send verification step, we're going to be sending for the user that token, and this token basically is added to the URL responsible for the verification step, which comes from our configuration file here, which is this one, which is basically this portion. So now we're going to be using this simple mail message that comes from a Spring framework. We're going to be setting the sender, setting to the receiver, and we're setting subject and the body itself that we're going to be sending. So we're going to be building the verification body. The verification body that we're going to be building here is pretty straightforward. We're going to be saying, hi, this is file name, and we're adding some kind of separator. Eventually, we're gonna be putting this verification link here in order to let the user know that, hey, this is a verification link that you need to click on in order to get verified. This verification link, by the way, is pretty straightforward. Why? Because we're gonna be viewing it next. And yeah, because I missed this line, you're gonna send the message that you have created. So after sending this email through our mail sender, which comes from the JavaMailSender package here, which comes from a Spring framework. Now the user has completely registered, and we're gonna be sending him a message, hey, the verification email is sent, please check your inbox. After completing the step of registration, now the user should be verifying its email here. What happens is that he usually go to the get mapping. Why? Because he's just clicking a link. The link is gonna be a get request. So what happens, sometimes people use the post mapping if you have some kind of configurations that you might want, or some kind of integrations that you might want with external system, if the external system is going to be responsible for handling this kind of verification. So you might need this post, but in most common cases, the get mapping is more than enough for handling this kind of verification step. So what happens in both cases is the same. We're verifying email address, and for the post request, it's calling also verify email address. So both of them are doing the same work, which is basically verifying email address. So I'm going to be jumping into the get here. So what happens in the get email verification? Now it's gonna be receiving the token. So the token that it has received, we need to hash it in order to compare it with what is stored in our database, because we're storing the hashed value, not the normal raw token. So what happens, we're going to be normalizing and hash that token through some kind of algorithm, eventually just to return the hashed value. And when we're returning the hashed value, we're going to be making sure that what was requested by the token hash through email verification token hash. So this is a method that we have created in our repository, which is going to be responsible for finding email verification hash token. If the user is not available, that means that email verification is rejected. Why? Because the token is not available. You're requesting a token that for a user that is not in our database. So if this bypass, and now we have found our user, now we need to make sure that is the token expired or not. If the token is expired, it's just a helper message just to make sure that, hey, what you're asking is still in the future. It is not in the past. In case it is in the past, then basically the token expired. If we bypass those two, then this means we're good to go. We're making the user verified, and now we're making the token hash is null, because now we no longer need the user to be verified. And that's basically the whole idea about how you verify a user. The same idea comes also to the resetting some kind of password. Why? Because basically it's the same idea. When you forget a password, what happens here? We're gonna do a little bit of validation, such as, hey, is the user available or not? If the user is not available, then great. You're gonna just tell him, hey, there's some kind of problem. Actually, for security purposes, if a user doesn't exist and he tried to forget a password, we don't really tell him this kind of information. Why? Because we're gonna send him a fake message just to confuse him, because he's not trying to get an actual data. If the user is not email verified, then basically he doesn't really mean we can forget the password to it. But in case the user exists and we want to actually reset its password, we're going to be using the email address, similar to the previous behavior. We're going to just prepare our message, we're going to be sending it. And in this building response body, we have also reset link. This reset link is basically contain our reset password here. Usually there is some kind of front end here that tells you, hey, what is the new password that you want? And you're going to be sending us in our DTO here the password that you want. And this is a token that comes from the URL. Do you know in the URL that we send in the email? This is also going to be included here, and the front end is going to be sending this part to us. What happens in the resetting password, we're just going to be finding by the token hash, similar to what we had found previously in the email verification step. And we're adding some kind of validation regarding the expiration, similar to what we had already talked about. And now we're going to be setting the password through password encoder.encode. It hashes the password, it doesn't really encode it. And then we're going to be setting the token hashes related to the password reset to nulls, and so of course its expiration, eventually updating our user, and now the password reset has been completely successful. There is an endpoint here that I hadn't really talked about, which is resend verification. Sometimes the first verification doesn't really work, and the front end shows a button that, hey, resend verification. So what happens here? We're just going to be resend the verification email, which is similar to what we had previously done. we're gonna be finding by email. If the user is empty, then resending verification shouldn't really be working because there is no matching user. And if the user is email verified, then it's pointless to send him an email. And the rest of the behavior is just almost similar or identical to the sending of verification email address, which comes from here, sending email address, which is also happening here and also happening in this part, which is resending verification. So yeah, that's basically the flow, and let's get into the demo here. So in order to get started, I have mentioned that I'm going to be using Docker Compose here. So I'm just going to be Docker Compose up. I'm going to be creating everything that I need. And now I'm going to be running my project, system started, and now I'm going to be clearing all this. And this is our user table that we have. Those are kind of columns that we need. And in order to view your local host or your mail server, that's basically the fake mail server that you have. Comes with localhost 8025, which comes also from the Docker Compose, which is this one. This one is basically for receiving, and this one is for reading the UI responsible for reading the emails that get sent to this port. So let's get started. I'm gonna be walking through with this auth folder. So I'm gonna be registering this user, which is its credential, ahmed@example.com and password 123. Let's register here. What happens here? The verification email is sent. Please check your inbox. So when you come to the mail pit here, which is localhost, you'll find the Ahmed@example. Thanks for registering. Please verify your email by opening this link. When you click this one, it's gonna be getting this request with this token, and it's gonna be responsible for verification. So what happens here? Before verification of the email, I want to try to log in. What happens if I try to log in? It's gonna be saying forbidden because email not be verified. And this is a part that I forgot to show you here, but it is also under the login here. When you're gonna be trying to log in, you're gonna be trying to authenticate. You're gonna be saying login rejected due to unverified email. This is a disabled exception. By the way, what happens when you catch this exception in the disabled exception? We're saying the login is rejected. Do you know why it's rejected? Because in the app user, by the way, we're gonna be implementing the user details, which happen to be used in the Spring framework. And in case it is not enabled, this means it is disabled. This means the user is not active and it is disabled. And in return, we're catching this disabled exception. And we're returning the email verification because this is responsible for making sure if the user is actually enabled or not. This is a disabled exception. It's not verified yet. This is the unverified email. And this is the email not found exception. That's basically what we had created. Like, this is not provided by Spring Framework. We just created it. That's what we use. So now, if you try to verify here, we need to paste our verification token here, which I'm going to be using from the email address here. So I'm going to be taking this one here. You can click this link or you can paste it here. Both of them do the same behavior. This is almost identical. So I'm going to be sending the request here. Email verified successfully. You can now log in. So I'm going to go back to what was rejected before, and I'm going to be trying to log in. I found that, hey, this is the token that I have. Now this is amazing. We can also verify the tokens through our body, which I had previously mentioned, that you can put the token here in the body and you're going to be sending the post request and it should be behaving the same. If in case you're trying to send an invalid token, it's going to tell you, hey, this is a bad request because this token basically is invalid. If you want also to send a reset verification, email is already verified, which is also another step that we had. Okay, now in case the user wants to say forget his password, so we have the same email, which is Ahmed@example. If we're gonna be trying here, if an account exists, we're gonna be sending a reset email, and guess what? We have an email. This is a reset email. Reset your password. It's similar behavior. We have a token. We have a resetting password. And in order to reset it, usually it's gonna happening from front end, but since we don't really have front end, I'm gonna be setting the new password here, and we want the reset token. So I'm gonna be taking this token and I'm gonna be put it here. And when I send, it's gonna be password reset send, which is amazing. And now we're gonna be logging in with the new password. So what happens here? If I try it with the new password that I have, and I'm gonna try to log in, it's gonna be working fine. And yeah, if you want also to send some kind of invalid token, similar to what we had previously done, it's gonna be throwing an error because reset token is invalid, which is usually happening. And that's basically how we work with email and sending email verification. Hopefully you learned something. If there is something else you would like to learn more, feel free to tell me. See you next time.